Welcome back to another FPL transfer tips. This time out of Double Gameweek 34, I'll be highlighting 10 players to buy, hold, sell and skip. Let me know all your thoughts about the players covered in this video and podcast, and also about any other players that you want to have covered in future videos. Be sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. Let's try to get this to over 200 likes on YouTube, and we're also very close to achieving 23,000 subscribers. Let's be sure to hit that by the end of the day. We're literally just a few away from that milestone. Check out my Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, for the latest FPL and news fantasy updates. Also join me on the Discord server, the FPL League. Check out the link for Draft Town, and also Spotify and Amazon Music. Leave a 5-star review on those podcasts. But without further ado, let's jump straight into it. The first player covered today is Eze, who has that double in Gameweek 34 against West Ham and Newcastle. I think that's a very good set of fixtures for Crystal Palace, particularly their attackers. I'm not so interested in their defenders or goalkeeper, but I think Eze could be the very best Crystal Palace option, period, although Mateta and Analyse would be very appealing as well. Now, Eze is currently a differential with 4% ownership, but after his goal against Liverpool, a very worked team goal from Crystal Palace, I think that ownership is only going to soar as we get to Gameweek 34. He has 7 goals and 3 assists for the season, an XGI figure of 10.12, so it does show that his returns are quite sustainable as opposed to Analyse, who has a higher ceiling, but his underlying numbers aren't as good and he can't stay fit really. Whilst Eze has had injury problems, I think Analyse is struggling even more for fitness throughout the season, and Eze is just shy of 100 FPL points. He's having a decent season considering how many minutes he has played, and last season he was actually quite good in terms of FPL points amongst midfielders. He was right close to the very top. And in terms of other numbers to really look out for, 9 big chances, 44 chances created, and 60 shots overall. I think Eze is the best Crystal Palace asset. If you want to go for an even bigger differential, then Analyse and Mateta are definitely worth considering. I actually don't mind doubling up on that Crystal Palace attack, but for me, Eze is a buy. Just before Wolves played Burnley a couple of weeks ago, I was very tempted to buy Cunha as my budget forward, but he was still a big doubt to start that game since he just returned from an injury, and as a result, I didn't go for him, but he showed his quality against Nottingham Forest with that brace, and he's another differential whose ownership could soar. Not to the same extent as Eze, who'll be more template pick by the time we get to the deadline, but I think Cunha is definitely under the radar with 3.8% ownership and a price tag of 5.6 million. There are some very tough games until the end of the season for Wolves, facing Arsenal, Man City and Liverpool, with 2 of them being away from home. But the next 3 games for Wolves are all home matches, and I would back him against Bournemouth and Luton Town. He has 11 goals and 6 assists for the season, 12 big chances and 121 FPL points. So I think Cunha is probably the best Wolves player, period, alongside Ait-Nouri. Those are the 2 Wolves assets you want to go for on the free hit for Double Gameweek 34, and also with your free transfers. And even if you're wildcarding in 35 or maybe 36, he's quite useful against Luton Town there. I think Wolves could score a few goals and Cunha will be heavily involved. So Cunha is another purchase here for Double Gameweek 34, and it doesn't really matter if you're free hitting or not. I think it's a great buy on all accounts. I covered Isak a couple of months ago and talked about skipping him. I have no regrets about saying that, but right now, he's a very easy purchase. I would argue he's the best forward in the game on current form, and you look at his fixtures coming up, that double in Gameweek 37 against Brighton at home and Manchester United away, and the fixtures before and afterwards are sensational. So I honestly think Isak is one of the easiest purchases you could make right now. Once Wilson comes back, if that were to happen, that could cause some problems, but right now, I don't really have any concerns whatsoever. He has 17 goals and 1 assist for the season, 30 big chances and 132 FPL points. His XG alone is 15.88 with 60 shots overall and 52 of them being inside the box. I honestly think Isak is the best Newcastle asset alongside Anthony Gordon, and if you were to go for both of them on the wildcard in Gameweek 35, I would have no objections. In fact, I'm looking at doing that myself next week when I activate the chip. So Isak for me is one of the easiest purchases you can make, and I think he's probably the best forward in the game until Gameweek 38. All eyes will be on that Bayern Munich versus Arsenal game in terms of Martin Odegaard's fitness. I think he will play that match, but he was subbed off against Aston Villa, And I have to say, Odegaard was probably the only Arsenal player who stood up and had a very good game overall. But Arteta said after the game that Odegaard was feeling something, he could not continue. So nothing is really known about his injury, but I think he's worth holding on to if you have the Norwegian playmaker. I have to say the stats in terms of goals and assists might not be that impressive, but his overall performances have probably been the best by any Arsenal player since December when he recovered from all the injuries and illnesses he had. I have to say Odegaard has been consistent week in, week out, and that is reflected by the 80 key passes he has made. He is creating 5 or 6 chances every single game, it seems, and the Arsenal attackers haven't really delivered. Apart from Saka, the others have really been inconsistent and haven't found that form this season, especially Gabriel Jesus and Martinelli. But Odegaard deserves much better, and I think those games against Wolves and Chelsea really suit Odegaard. He's scored against them plenty of times in the past, including last season, and even against Tottenham he scored one of the only goals in that 2-0 win the last time Arsenal met Tottenham at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And also Bournemouth, he got a big return this season at the Vitality Stadium. So a lot of these fixtures coming up do suit Odegaard. He has a good record against some of these clubs, and I know the injury is kind of a big problem. We don't know enough about it, but for the time being I think it's worth holding on to Odegaard and seeing what the latest updates are. But I think he'll play against Bayern Munich, and the same will be said about both fixtures in Double Gameweek 34. Another injury doubt is Ait-Nouri, and I actually bought him out of Gameweek 33 because Gary O'Neill was very bullish that he would be in the squad in Gameweek 33 against Nottingham Forest, but that didn't turn out to be the case. But he said just before that game on the 12th of April, Ryan will travel with the group. He's had a different week to everyone else and he's had a slight issue, but I envisage him playing a part. But that didn't turn out to be the case, and now there are some concerns about him playing in Double Gameweek 34. But I think if he was that close to playing in Gameweek 33, he should be available for Arsenal and Bournemouth at home. So it's definitely worth holding on to him, waiting for more information, just like with Martin Odegaard. But I think both of them will start in that matchup between Arsenal and Wolverhampton Wanderers. Ait-Nouri's ownership is 7.1%. His price has actually gone up since the last time I covered him to 4.8 million. He has 2 goals, 3 assists, 7 big chances and 71 FPL points. The other underlying numbers aren't particularly great, but I do like Ait-Nouri for the double. In fact, he's one of the best defenders in my opinion for Double Gameweek 34. Only the Arsenal defenders like Ben White, Saliba, Gabriel and possibly Van Dijk are better than him, because that Arsenal fixture you would expect to write off and not expect any points, especially in terms of clean sheets, but you would expect at least one return from Ait-Nouri, whether it's an assist or a clean sheet across both games in 34. The last few times I've spoken about Julian Alvarez, he has been a sell in these videos and podcasts, and the same applies here. There are some great fixtures for Man City. They have by far the best from any of the top 3 contending teams for the Premier League title, and he has started the last couple of matches in the Premier League, but despite having really good underlying numbers, his returns haven't been good enough in recent weeks, and a lot of his goals in fact came in the first 8 game weeks of the season. He has 8 goals and 11 assists for the campaign. His XGI is 17.65, very good numbers for a 6.4 million forward. His ownership is 16.7%, and that's 139 FPL points for the season. But selling Alvarez to Isak, Cunha, Mateta, even Solanke for this double game week, and there's a few other forwards I'd consider. Of course, Erling Haaland's a massive upgrade. If you can go up to him, then that's going to be perfectly reasonable. And you also have a few other forwards here and there that will outscore Alvarez from now until the end of the season. He does have that double in 37, and he has scored against Fulham away in the past. If you look at last season, he had a big return there at Craven Cottage, and there's some other games that could really suit him, like Wolves at home and Brighton away. But I personally think Alvarez is a sell. I don't expect him to start every single game remaining, and you've got so many better players from Man City to cover, and I think the ideal triple up from the citizens will be Foden, Haaland and Gvardiol at this moment in time. And not only that, all the other forwards you have at your disposal right now, I think they're all better than Julian Alvarez. I sold Pedro Porro in Gameweek 33 for Ait-Nouri. He delivered 0 points as Tottenham lost 4-0 to Newcastle, and Porro was subbed off due to an injury early on in the second half. He has been a great FPL asset over the course of the season, not so much in 2024, but he delivered 11 points not so long ago against Nottingham Forest at home with his first Premier League goal of the season, and he has 2 upcoming doubles. But especially for those wildcarding in Gameweek 35, I definitely sell Pedro Porro right now, and I think the best time to buy him, in fact, is Gameweek 37, when he'd have Burnley at home, Man City at home and Sheffield United away. If you look at all the other fixtures beforehand, you wouldn't expect Tottenham to keep a clean sheet in any single one of those games, but perhaps Porro could get some attacking returns. But with that injury, Postecoglou said after the game he felt something in the first half and he wanted to see how it went in the second half. I haven't checked with the medical team, but we'll see what the issue is. So a bit similar to Odegaard and all the other problems, we don't know enough about it, but just now something I've seen reported in the news news. Odegaard has been in training ahead of that Bayern Munich game, so it looks like Odegaard is in the clear to play that match, and that reinforces my belief that Odegaard is a hold. But back to Borro, he has 1 goal and 8 assists for the season, 10 big chances created, and also 17 bonus points, 110 FPL points overall, and his ownership is still quite high at 18.2%. He's also priced at 5.9 million. He blanks this week, he's an injury out. I think the best time to buy the Spaniard and all Tottenham assets will be Gameweek 37. I don't mind going for Son and maybe another attacker for Double Gameweek 35, but honestly, I think Borro is a buy from Gameweek 37, and at this moment in time, I would sell the Spaniard and buy him later on in the season. It goes without saying that if you're one of the 20.7% of managers who own Darwin Núñez, you definitely hold on to him against Fulham and Everton. I think he could do quite well in this double game week, but for those that are looking for an attacker for this double game week and also for the rest of the season, I just wouldn't go for Darwin Núñez. I think there are better alternatives, and in fact, I think the 3 best forwards in double game week 34 are Solanke, Cunha and Mateta, as I'll discuss in the best free hit team video and podcast coming up. But in terms of strikers until the end of the season, you've got Isak, who for me is the standout. Erling Haaland's another one who rises to the fore, and perhaps Rasmus Højlund if he can find some form once again. But with Darwin Núñez, there is always great underlying numbers, so much potential, but very rarely does he deliver to that standard. And look, he has 11 goals, 11 assists for the season. That's pretty impressive. 32 big chances, 126 FPL points, but he should be scoring more goals with the chances he accumulates. 80 shots in the box, over 100 shots overall this season, 30 key passes and 10 big chances created. And look, I think Darwin Núñez could really step up in this double game week, but I'd rather go for another forward with a double like Cunha, Mateta or Solanke. Not to mention for those that are free hitting this week and looking for a striker beyond Gameweek 34, I just wouldn't go anywhere near Darwin as a result. But for me, I would skip Darwin Núñez if you don't have him already. Let me know if you disagree down in the comment section below. Trent Alexander-Arnold could be a great punt on the free hit in double Gameweek 34, and even as a single Gameweek purchase before you wildcard him out in Gameweek 35. But I would skip him because with Connor Bradley, who was subbed off due to an injury against Crystal Palace, it doesn't seem to be too serious. They're going to be assessing that injury and see how it develops. But either way, I don't expect Trent to start both games in double Gameweek 34. And in terms of clean sheet chances, maybe 1 clean sheet, but Liverpool haven't kept one in the last 9 games across all competitions. And as a result, you're really relying on assists or maybe a goal from Trent Alexander-Arnold in order to get those bonus points and some good returns overall. Trent Alexander-Arnold could absolutely smash it off the park. He's got the highest ceiling of any double Gameweek 34 defender, but I also think his floor is quite low, as I don't expect him to start both games. So Trent Alexander-Arnold, there's a lot of potential with this signing. It would only be for this double game week, because beyond that, I don't think Liverpool keep many clean sheets against West Ham, Tottenham, Aston Villa or Wolves. Perhaps 1 or 2 from the remaining games coming up until the end of the season. So for me, Trent Alexander-Arnold is a skip. Whenever I've covered double Gameweek 34, I've been asked a lot about going for Crystal Palace's goalkeeper, Dean Henderson, and he kept his first clean sheet of the season against Liverpool in that 1-0 shocking victory there for the Eagles. His ownership is 1%, his price is 4.4 million. There is some potential with those fixtures, but I don't think Crystal Palace keep a clean sheet against West Ham or Newcastle. There might be 1 or 2 until the end of the season, but I really wouldn't back Henderson. And if you wanted to go for Crystal Palace assets, Eze, Elise and Mateta are the 3 ones to go for. I'd actually rather triple up on Crystal Palace offensively than go for Dean Henderson in goal or even Munoz in the backline. They would only be on the bench in a provisional Gameweek 34 free hit team, in my opinion. He's made 44 saves throughout the season. The expected goals conceded figure whilst Dean Henderson was on the pitch is 20.64, and that's 26 FPL points for the campaign, but 41 big chances conceded there for Dean Henderson, and I don't think Crystal Palace are reliable defensively. Despite how well they defended against Liverpool at Anfield, I don't think they'll put that same level of performance against the likes of West Ham and Newcastle. So I would skip Dean Henderson and probably all Crystal Palace assets in the defence, but definitely go for Eze, Mateta or Elise for this double in Gameweek 34. And there we have it, 10 players to buy, hold, sell and skip, all covered ahead of Double Gameweek 34. And it also covers all bases in terms of those with different chip strategies. So with Isak, he's a very good option to purchase in general. A lot of us will start buying him in Gameweek 35, but you can even buy him right now against Crystal Palace away. And I have been recommending him in recent wildcard videos and podcasts. It's not just something I'm saying after his brace against Tottenham Hotspur, but there are so many options to consider for the remaining game weeks of the season. And of course, we've got the doubles in 34, 35 and 37 all to navigate, and Tottenham are blanking of course in this game week, which is why Heung-min Son is the most transferred out player at this point of the game week. Thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. Let's get this video to the 200 likes and let's keep on pushing towards 23k subscribers and beyond. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the other links in the description below for the Patreon, Championships Discord server, the FPL League, Draft Town, and Spotify and Amazon Music. Leave a 5-star review on those podcasts. It goes a long way to supporting the channel. I wish you all the best of luck for Gameweek 34 and the rest of the season, and I'll see you next time.